Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to the installment of Scott Selections here for Friday, July 31st. Before we get into today's play of the day, quick recap of what happened yesterday. We ended up losing in the NBA restart as we ended up taking the Lakers -4, which was available at -110 on FanDuel. We got a pretty good number at the time. It went from 4 to roughly 5 in all spots earlier the following morning, which is why I gave the video out early. Then Beverly was announced to play. The line ended up going to 4.5, so went back down afterwards. And the game ended up being really close to the end, and the Lakers ended up winning by 2. If I'm being completely honest, the Lakers really didn't impress me at all. I was more impressed by how the Clippers played in that game. LeBron, I know he had the big defensive stop at the end, and he had the putback layup to win the game. If I'm being honest, he was terrible for about 98% of the game. He was awful. He went 6 of 19, barely got into the lane, only attempted 2 free throws, and he had 5 turnovers. Anthony Davis basically carried the entire team for the majority of the game before LeBron took over in the final minute. Is what it is. A lot of people are going to be overrating the Lakers' performance yesterday. I really wasn't that impressed, conceptually speaking, if you're against a team without its 2 best bench players and a team that has no big men whatsoever. If you count Zubac and Noah as premium big man depth, I don't really know what to tell you. But the Lakers still basically almost choked the game away. They were up 9 with about 3.5 to go. I don't really know what Frank Vogel was doing. Decided to just keep LeBron on the bench for about, I don't know, the 9-minute mark to the 4-minute mark in the fourth quarter. I thought that was stupid. The Lakers up 3 with 47 seconds to go off a timeout. Decide to organize a play for Danny Green. I thought that was stupid. I thought Vogel had a terrible game. I thought that Rivers did really well as a coach. And even though the Clippers lost, I actually feel, I don't know. I feel like the Clippers impressed me more in that game, even though they lost because they weren't at full strength. The Lakers were. And the Clippers hung tough. And I feel like LeBron, I know he had an off game or something happened, but he mentally checked out for about 3.5 quarters. And I feel like that's a bit concerning. But either or, Lakers couldn't get it done. They were up 9 with about 4 to go. Ended up only winning by 2, so they didn't cover the 4. Is what it is. Got a good number, and it didn't pan out. But for Friday, we're going to be sticking with the NBA, and we're actually going to be doing a 2-pick parlay as the play of the day. The reason why this video is coming out so early is because one of the games in the parlay, I should say, is going to be the early game, which is going to be at 2:30 p.m., and the other game is going to be at 4 p.m., both those Eastern time. So for that reason, I'm giving out the video nice and early, so you have time to get the parlay in. The first matchup is going to be against it's the early game once again at 2:30. It's going to be between the Magic and the Nets, and I like the Magic on the money line. And the second game is going to be at 4 o'clock between the Suns and the Wizards, and I like the Suns on the money line. If you take both the money lines together, the Magic are -286, and the Suns are -275. Parlay both of them together, and the 2-pick parlay is -120 on DraftKings, and that will be the play of the day. Now, a couple reasons why I like the Magic and the Suns, respectively. I'll go in order. Similar stories for both teams. It's mostly just the fate of the Nets and the Wizards in this matchup, as both teams have just been decimated by players opting out of the restart. The Nets, if you want to go through the whole thing, Kyrie was somewhat injured, but he basically opted out. He wasn't going to play no matter what. DeAndre Jordan opted out. Taurean Prince opted out. Spencer Dinwiddie opted out. The whole team basically opted out. I know Wilson Chandler did too, but he's terrible. Claxton opted out as a backup big man. So the Nets have no big man depth whatsoever besides Jared Allen. If you want to just go through the actual roster, you might make the argument saying, oh, they got Jamal Crawford. Yeah, Crawford's not playing in this game either because he's not actually fit to play. He hasn't played in any of the tune-up games, and he is projected not to play in this game. So the Nets are going to be rolling out basically a G League roster, and the Magic are actually going to be getting a lot healthier as Jonathan Isaac, who suffered a pretty serious leg injury in the middle of the season, is expected to play in this game, and he definitely provides a nice spark defensively for the Magic. Markelle Fultz is also going to be playing. If you want to go through the Magic and their depth chart, the Nets have no big men depth, and the Magic have Aaron Gordon and Vucevic. So I personally think the Nets are going to get killed on the boards. From a guard perspective, the Nets are going to be throwing out Tyler Johnson, Karis LeVert. You got Joe Harris at the small forward, and I mean, their lineup's terrible. I mean, if they were going to be starting a season with that roster, they might win 9 games. It's actually that bad. And the Magic, I don't know if home court's going to really matter because they're playing in Orlando, but it's a neutral. I don't know if it's going to play a factor, but I got to assume Orlando's going to be more comfortable in that surrounding because they're going to be actually playing in their home area. So I think that could potentially play a factor, mostly just to fade on the Nets, though. This line opened up roughly -1 a month ago. Ended up going to -5. Now it's up to -7. I'm not really interested in -7 because I don't think the Magic are that good of a team, but I think that they're significantly better than the Nets. But I think 7's a little bit too much and could lead to some potential backdoor liability. So for that reason, I'm going to take the money line as the first pick in this parlay, as I think the Nets will keep this somewhat close early on, but I think the Magic will do enough to win. And now talking about the second matchup in the parlay, it's going to be between the Suns and the Wizards. Both teams that realistically probably shouldn't be in the restart because they just threw extra teams together to make it entertaining. The Wizards are going to be without two of their key pieces. Bradley Beal, of course, being the big one. The All-Star snub Bradley Beal, who was looking like one of the best players in the league this season, opted out. And you also are going to be missing another key piece here for the Wizards, and that is going to be Bertans, as he opted out as well, and he is one of the best three-point shooters in the entire league. Bertans, if you look at his numbers, was playing really solid basketball as well. I know a lot of people don't know much about him unless you actually go out of your way to watch the Wizards play, which is pretty, tough to do nowadays because they're so bad. And unless you remember him from the Spurs and his runs that he had there. But he was averaging 15.4 points per game, and he's shooting over 42% from three. Phenomenal three-point shooter, and Bradley Beal's out, who's averaging roughly 30 points a game. The Wizards are going to be terrible as well. If you want to go through the win totals that the Nets and the Wizards had going into the restart, the Nets were over under 2.5, and the Wizards were over under 1.5. Both teams were juiced to the under. So oddsmakers think both these teams are barely going to win any games, if any, in the restart. And the Suns, even though they have had some up and downs so far this season, you got Devin Booker, you got DeAndre Ayton, you got Ricky Rubio, you got some pretty decent pieces there in Phoenix. I'm not saying that they're a great team. They're not going to make the playoffs because I don't think they're going to catch the 9 or the 8 seed. But in reality, there's a reason why they're a 7-point favorite, and I think the Wizards without Bertans and Beal are going to look lost offensively. I don't know who's going to be shooting. Are they going to let Ish Smith shoot 20 times a game? Probably not. I have no idea where they're going to get their offense from. Maybe Thomas Bryant. I don't know. This team's offense is going to be terrible. And I think the Suns with the pick and roll set up between Rubio and Ayton with Booker doing whatever he wants offensively, especially since the Wizards were a terrible defensive team to begin with. They might rely on Wagner taking a ton of shots. Good luck with that. So the two picks once again in this parlay are going to be the Orlando Magic money line at -286 and the Suns money line at -275. Both those picks combined for a parlay of -120 on DraftKings, and that is going to be the play of the day. Other than that, though, good luck to all of you and your respective bets today, and I look forward to seeing all of you tomorrow. Bye, everyone.